Hey there, Regina Anley here, and it is time for Coffee with Regina at a very special time because here where I am in the US, it is 5 p.m. So instead of coffee, I'm still working on my water bottle for the day. And my guest today is Krystal, is it Hille?
Hill.
Hill.
Just a
So
silent
don't
email.
pronounce the E is silent. So Krystal Hille, and Krystal is joining me from, is it proper to say down under?
Yes, you
Australia?
can absolutely say that. Absolutely.
And so if I've got this right, Krystal, it is 7 a.m. your time on Thursday.
That is exactly right. And I've got my tea here with me.
So we're talking about not only are we international, we've actually crossed the date line. So so it's Thursday there, it's
Yeah.
Wednesday here. So let me tell you, before we get started here, let's talk about Krystal and who Krystal is. So Krystal is an independent publisher, a visibility and transformational visionary, and a 9-time international #1 best-selling author, publisher, and speaker. Wow. And with over 30 years in leadership, a background in theater, directing, tantric practices, and female empowerment, she's committed to raising the consciousness of the planet, one person, one story, and one book at a time. Purpose-driven entrepreneurs, speakers, coaches, and consultants and healers hire her to become international best-selling authors so that they can gain global authority, make a bigger impact, and attract more clients within as little as 5 months' time. How cool is that? And since founding Hill House Publishing in early 2021, Krystal has already, 2021, right? She's already helped over 200 authors from 28 countries become international best-selling authors. And she's received book endorsements from Alan Cohen and attracted lead authors such as Dr. John DeMartini, Dr. Larry Farwell, and Laurie Ladd. So welcome, Krystal.
Thank you so much for having me, Regina, and for changing the time for me, especially. What an honor.
Yeah, it's amazing, when you think about it, we're all here on this planet, and when you think about, around the world, what's everybody doing? Yeah, they always say it's 5 o'clock somewhere, right?
It's always a 5 o'clock somewhere, yes.
Well, it's 7 a.m. your time. It's 5 o'clock here. So, 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 Krystal, you are like amazing from a publishing standpoint. And one of the things that I really love in your bio is the whole idea of changing, the planet, changing the consciousness, one story, one book at a time. And when you think about that, and I always think that everybody has a story in them. The question is why or how would they even think about getting that out and into a book? I mean, some people, everybody has that story. I don't think everybody thinks about making it into a book. Tell us about like some of your authors and why people go to write a book.
Yeah, look, it's so true. A lot of people initially they think, well, is my story even worth sharing? Yeah, like who am I to think that I should put my story into a book that becomes a bestseller? So we all have most of us have this imposter syndrome because we feel that we're so close to our story sometimes that we don't think it's worth sharing. But I'm sure you've had that experience where you just share something and oh yeah, I just did that the other day, and someone's like, what? You did what? Wow, that's amazing. So for us it's normal, but for somebody else it's actually the thing that really inspires them. And so from this raising the vibration of the planet perspective, the reason to share your story is so that your wisdom can be spread. So you're not just keeping it to yourself, so that others can be inspired by it, so that they can also make perhaps bigger changes, become more courageous in their life, or just realize that, wow, I'm not alone in all of the things that I've gone through. There's so many other people going through the exact same thing in their own way. From a business perspective, the reason to share your story is so that yeah, you become known for the expertise that you have developed because of your story. And for me, that's really important to look at, okay, who are you and how has that made you who you've become today? So that people understand, they create that personal connection to you when you share your story. And that's creating that know, like, and trust factor. And then they recognize your expertise, so they want to come and work with you. So it's just a powerful way to become more visible. You know, podcast hosts still really want people to have a book, because they know that if somebody has taken the time and done, they had the discipline to write down not just their story, but their system, their methodology, they will be a good podcast guest because they know how to clearly articulate what they do.
Yeah, you packed a whole lot right in there, and it's that whole who would listen to my story, who cares about my story, and the thing is that for that one point is that there's someone somewhere in the world who is going through something that you've gone through. They're experiencing it in their own way. However, the essence of what they're going through is something that you've gone through before. So you know how you navigated through it. You know what you had to do. You it was the now what you wish you knew back then, and your story could be life changing for somebody else who is going through that same thing, and you can help them accelerate through the process. And I mean, I'm going to put it this way. I just think it's kind of selfish to hold that inside, knowing that, you know, if I went through something and I could, and just by telling that story and telling them what I learned, and so that they don't make the same mistakes that I made, then it's my duty in that collective consciousness to help others be able to, move faster through the same kind of experience.
Yeah, I 100% agree. It is selfish if we're not sharing. If we're in a position to help somebody with the wisdom that we have gained, then we should always do that.
Yeah, and when you talk about all of the different ways that you can help, you know, a lot of us nowadays, because the world, it's a global world now. The internet, well, I'm from back in the day when, before the internet. So the internet was a huge game changer for the world, because all of a sudden the entire world was connected in ways that we had never been connected before. And I'm a big energy person, as a lot of my listeners know. And so, I mean, even prior to the internet, that collective consciousness was still a thing. Now with the internet, we're actually really super connected. I mean, look, you're in Australia. I'm sitting in Salem, New Hampshire right now, and we're having this conversation. That's the way things are nowadays. And when you think about the impact, it used to be we thought we only had like this little local impact. Now really do have a global impact, and it's kind of our duty to help others, navigate, and writing out your story and putting it down on paper and being able to articulate that is huge. Now, that being said, there's a lot of folks that are out there. I love writing content. So for me, putting content for a book together is kind of a fun thing. For other people, it's like, I wouldn't even know where to start. I don't even know, how do you create a book? What would you tell them?
Yeah, and that is a very common block to as well. Firstly, people think I don't even know what is my story, and then it's like, how do I even start? How do I structure it? And and I'm not even a writer because in school I might have gotten this really bad grade, and so now I stay away from writing. I much rather speak. I'm a storyteller, but I don't like writing, and that happens a lot. And so for those people, what I say to them is, use an app like Otter and go for a beautiful walk where you're feeling, in your zone, or wherever you're feeling in your zone, and just speak into it, and it creates a transcription. And the other thing is, I always say planning is really important. You don't just sit down and expect to write the whole thing out in one go. It's firstly, it's really important to become clear on your messaging. Firstly, who am I writing this for? Who is that ideal person? And quite often it's the person that you were 5 years ago, or the person that you were before this thing happened to you that you're going to write about. The main message, really being very clear. That's the second thing. What is my main message that I want to convey? So there's a premise in a way, and then there's the story that will demonstrate that premise. Talk your story exactly. And then the other thing, it's I always give that metaphor. If you're trying to write and edit at the same time, it's like having one foot on the in the driving a car with one foot on the brakes and one foot on the accelerator, and it just creates a lot of friction and a bumpity bump, and you're not going anywhere. It's the same thing that happens in your mind when you're trying to, use the creativity of the creative flow and then the logical mind all at the same time. It just does not work. So never expect to be writing and editing at the same time. So allow yourself that first draft is really just a stream of consciousness, getting it all out there, getting it all out on the page, or speaking it all into Otter, whatever app you're using. And the second phase is then, okay, so did I actually speak to my main topic? Did I actually speak with the reader in mind? Most of the time you don't. Most of the time the first draft is for yourself, where you're getting clarity yourself. And then now it's only on the second draft that you're switching the lens and really writing it or crafting it for the reader.
So just out of curiosity, I was chuckling there as you were saying that. As you saw, I was smiling. And that was because being a technical analytical type as I am that type. When I write something, I am editing it as I write it. And it's just the way I am. And I understand that concept of just get it on paper first and then go back. And I write articles for a magazine every month. And when I write my article, it's taken me a couple years now to finally get to the point where I'm like, you know what? You have an idea in your head for this month's article, just write it all down and then go back to it. And that's when the rest of it comes out, because it always becomes better. And for those of us who are that type, I mean, do you have any tips or ideas on, that it's kind of like that, almost like an OCD mental block?
Yeah.
that makes us want to automatically edit as we
And,
go along.
and that's in a way.
Go ahead.
So I think we had a bit of a delay there. So, and I think that's where my author archetypes come in, because everyone is wired slightly differently and has different preferences. So it might work for you, although it probably would take a lot longer to write an article than if you were just to write it and then go back to it. Mm-hmm. The tip for that would be just be really, really conscious that that is your tendency, and that it doesn't have to be perfect in the first draft. And to keep forcing writing and forcing yourself to do anything, I don't like those two together. But there is a tool where you're writing as fast as you can without stopping. And you do that for 10 minutes, and you will be and when you do that, you can actually access your alpha brainwaves. You can access a higher wisdom, and what comes out of you will actually surprise you. It will be better than what your conscious mind could create or write. And so for that, go try it. I would love you to try it and let me know if that changes something for you. Set a timer, literally set a timer only for 10-15 minutes, and then just write. And even if you feel called to change something, say, I'm really wanting to change and edit something on the go, but I know I need to keep writing. Just let that thought come onto the page as well, and that will then unlock the next layer where you go deeper.
Yeah, I just added it into the chat here. 10-minute writing sprints. That's brilliant. And you know what? When you said that, I have been in 5 different collaboration books myself, and one of them is this series called the Inspired Life series. And the woman who puts those together, when we got together for our meetings, and for whatever it is, Krystal, you just put 2 and 2 together for me, because she always started every single session with what she calls rush writing. And she said, she would come up with a topic and say, you've got 5 minutes. I just want you to write whatever comes to your head on this topic. And I'm like, I don't care about this topic. At first I was like, why am I writing about this topic? And you know what? That's what she was doing. She was training us to do that, just get it on paper. And she kept saying that over and over again. Don't edit it, just write what comes into your head. Don't cross out. You don't have to do anything. If you spell something wrong, who cares? You just write it all down. That's and that was actually what she was trying to do, is train us on that. So you actually just light dawns, right?
Beautiful. Yeah, that's what I do with my authors as well. Like, we have these sessions where we write on their story. I give them specific topics based on the chapter or the theme of the book, or their story, and then they just write for 10 minutes. And often it's fascinating, because sometimes people start crying, or it becomes really deep for them, or they start being amazed at their story. And I think that's the other thing. Writing has the power to transform and heal. So we were talking earlier about, it's our duty to share our story and our wisdom, but it actually does so much for us as well. When we're sharing our story, it really helps us to see our past, and it helps us to see how far we've come. Sometimes it unlocks unhealed trauma that we didn't realize was still there, and it brings it to the surface so it can be healed. It's just such a beautiful process. And I love that, having a background in life coaching and as well. And so it's just, I love seeing the transformation that happens to the authors, and how much more confidence and clarity they have about who they are and what they're doing in the world, having gone through a journey like that.
And there's a lot of people who, for healing purposes, write in journals every day, and yet they don't think that they could write a book. And yet they've been writing in these journals, and the story has been unfolding in the journal, and they could actually probably pull a book out of their journal entries and take those key points, what they learned, as they go back and read it again and say, this that I wrote a year ago. Yeah, and here's what I learned from that, and here's where I am now. It's transformational. I mean, it really is. It's healing. It's transformational. I really love that. I love that
And the
idea.
difference between journaling and writing in a book is that you suddenly have the witness. So if there was any shame around your story that you've written in a journal, now that you're creating it for a book and writing it, actually shifting that lens and now writing it for the reader and being witnessed in your story, that in itself can release so much shame and help people to, I had one of my clients, she was saying, now my story is, I've released my story back into the universe. I no longer have to carry it on my shoulders. And that was so liberating for her, and yeah, really amazing to witness.
Yeah, that is amazing. I mean, it is. A book, writing it out to yourself is one thing. Writing it and then rewriting it. So maybe your journal is your first draft, right?
That's
And
right.
then
Yes.
and then you look at it and you go, okay, so now my second draft is going to be, I'm actually going to take that out and put it in words as a story to help others and create a book from it. That is so powerful and freeing, like you said. So tell me a little bit. You mentioned your author archetype. So when you think about the different types of how we write, what are those different types that of
So
author?
I based these author archetypes on the 4 elements. Because I was looking at all of my 200 authors, or there's a few more now, that I've been working with, and looking at what are their strengths and what are their weaknesses. What do they excel at and what do they struggle with? And it actually fitted in. So we have the earthy empress, who is that grounded person. She plans everything out. She's like the architect, that needs to do all the drafts first and all the drawings before she even goes and builds the house. And she doesn't write until it's perfect. And they're very much needed. They have the great outlines. Their problem can be that they're a little bit procrastinate. They procrastinate because they actually never start because there's so much planning to be done. It always changes. Then we have the airy wizard. This is the element, obviously the element of air. These are the people, they are very strong in their ideas, very powerful in their ideas and concepts. They're able to take big concepts and create them, make them really simple. They're great teachers as well. Their weakness is that they stay perhaps too analytical and they need to bring in more stories, more emotions. Often they hide behind their role and their professional identity, and they don't let people in. So for them, the challenge is to actually share the stories. And that's what the fiery charismatic is excellent at. So this is we all know this archetype. It's somebody who, imagine sitting around the campfire. It's that person that has all the most amazing stories to share, and they just wow you away. You get drawn in. And then when the stories are finished, you're kind of sitting there almost overwhelmed. It's like, oh my God, where lost yourself in the story. So what that archetype needs to do is bring in some of the air and make that story relevant for the reader. Saying, okay, and the lesson from the story is, and how that relates to you is this. And then we've got the watery, what did I call it? The watery mystic. So this, if we're thinking also in terms of star signs, the water element, very connected to their emotions. These people often cry while they're writing because they're almost reliving everything to the depth, and their stories are so evocative because they really feel what they're writing. And so it creates that, it connects the reader to their own feelings as well. And so that bringing that depth to all of it is phenomenal. And of course, we have everything within us, but we will have one or two dominant ones. And the art is to balance them all out. And I've created this beautiful guided meditation as well, where that happens. We're activating all of the archetypes. It's in one of my programs. But anybody can go and do the test. And what comes with it is a report that shows you what your strength is, and writing tips around what you can do to improve. For you, it would be just do it. That just to start writing, just kind of get it out onto the page. That would be one of the tips for the Earthy Empress.
So where would they find that quiz?
That's a good question. I will post it. I think I have it. Yeah, I've got it. I'm posting it in the private chat so that you can grab it from there and share it with everyone. It's at hillhousepublishing.com /author archetype quiz.
I will put that and make sure that gets out into all of the chats for where this live is going. And so if you are watching this or watching the replay and you think maybe you're an earthly empress, or maybe you think you are an airy wizard, or maybe you think you're the fiery charismatic type, or maybe you're that watery mystic. You think you are. If you want to find out for sure, go take this quiz and actually find out for sure. And I understand that you mentioned that anybody who is watching this that wants to take that quiz, you have a special offer for them.
I do. I'm also offering anybody who has that, takes the quiz, a 30-minute free author archetype activation session with me, where we can balance out all of them, because that's what makes us a good writer. When we can tap into all of the archetypes, not just be on our one lane, that's what really unlocks our writing potential fully. So I'm happy to offer that to all of your people. All they need to do is just reach out to me, say that they've watched this coffee chat, and we'll get that sorted.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much for that. And, I mentioned about the collaboration books and stuff that I've done. Collaboration books seem like they're the thing these days. And especially for people who have a story and they're not quite ready to write a whole book. And I know that was the case for me. I have, I know I have books in my head, and I'm doing the procrastination thing of getting it out. And then I had opportunities where people asked if I wanted to join in this collaboration book. And that was just writing a chapter. That made it so much easier to just be writing a chapter instead of the idea and the thought of writing an entire book. And so I know you have you have a book coming up. It's Beyond Conditioning, and it's not just a book; it's a card deck that goes along with us. Tell us about that.
Yes, so this is rather than doing just the book where everybody writes their 3,000 word chapter, I've collaborated with Rosie Batista, who is a card deck expert, and everybody who joins this project will write their chapter and then contribute 3 cards to a card deck, a 50 card deck. So that's really exciting, and it's really for the coaches and the healers and the wellness practitioners who have, in their own way, moved beyond conditioning in any aspect of their life. This can be moving away from the conventional health, or moving away from conventional education and homeschooling, or healing is obvious. For me, it feels beyond conditioning, and really living life on our terms. So it's the silent but fierce rebels, who are here to make a difference, who challenge the status quo, who want to share their story so that we can bring more awareness and more awakening globally to what is possible, and that we do have our power. We do have power to take our lives into our own hands. So that's the content of this book, and really what it will do, as you said. Many people actually use a multi-author book, so they get that title, best-selling author, so that when they then write their solo book, they can say, here comes the solo book of best-selling author, so and so, and then insert your name. Yeah, so there's
I
many strategies of business why that would work, and I really look forward to creating this project in particular, because it will wake people up.
I really love the concept, the idea of that book, and I really love that. I've seen there's just so many collaboration books that are out there right now, and so many more. I keep seeing. I have friends and friends of friends that there's book after book after book after book I'm seeing launched. I love that it's kind of kicking it up a notch by adding the card deck to it, and it just like adds a brand new element that makes it very unique. So I really, applaud you on, I don't know how you came up with that idea. That I think that was brilliant.
Yeah, thank you. It just happened in conversation. Me and Rosie were talking and thinking, well, how can we collaborate? And sometimes people aren't ready to do their whole card deck either. So it's just that perfect first step to then have a card deck that you can use in your business, that you can use in connection calls as an intrigue. And it's just, I'm excited by it, and I'm looking forward to calling in all the people that are going to be part of it. We've got about 7 people have joined so far, so there's a few more spaces left.
Awesome. And you're looking, once again, you're looking specifically for that particular project. That's the healers, spiritual.
Yeah, spiritual wellness, health, coaches. It's anybody who is really questioning the status quo, or moving, really, who has, even business coaches. I think because business coaches help people live their life on their own terms by creating financial abundance. So it's for those people as well who are, I'm thinking crypto now for whatever reason. There are so many ways beyond the conditioned way of doing things, that's what we want to feature.
Oh, I love that idea. And like I said, I'm blown away by the whole card deck piece that goes along with it, because that makes it that much more powerful, because it's not just the stories in the book and then everybody has their 3 cards that go into the card deck. And it's a way to not just have somebody read something, but physically engage with the cards. It's
Exactly. It's like the cards will bring the content of the book alive, and it becomes, something practical. You can shovel the cards. What do I need to know today? Oh, there's this. how I can live my life beyond conditioning. Yeah, it's great. Yeah, it's a great project.
Yeah. Wow. This is the I know we could talk more on a whole bunch of stuff because now my brain is just going now about the whole collaboration book and everything else. However, we are out of time. And so I just want to wrap up by reminding folks. So Krystal is like absolutely amazing. I love chatting with you, Krystal, because not only do you have a really cool Australian accent,
With a bit of German mixed into it.
it's you have this, your energy. You're just it draws people in. It's light, it's airy, you are so easily approachable to help people get to their goals of what they want to do. And in this just short conversation, we talked about you could write your book, you could be in a collaboration. There's all kinds of different things that you can do. And I think that first step, I love your archetype quiz. Your author archetype quiz is the coolest thing to me because I actually did go out at one point and did your archetype quiz, and I did actually end up as the earthly empress. That one, I kind of thought I was, that was where I ended up. It kind of gives you the idea, and it kind of gives you and talks to you about what you do. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? And like you said, I was chuckling when you said, it's the just do it. You have to get to that just do it. And it was very true. I was laughing. I was like, she is so spot on. This is so right. So for everybody who's catching this live or on the replay, absolutely, if you don't do anything else from this or don't take any other action from this particular episode, I'm telling you, go out and do the author architect quiz, whether or not you're actually thinking about being an author, because it will help you with whatever it is that you're writing. It helps you identify what your writing style is. And that's what I really loved about it. So I don't know if you have any final thoughts on that.
Yeah, it is just that, when we have this big canvas thinking, oh my God, I'm not a good writer, but then we suddenly get a system that shows us, okay, you're not a good writer because you procrastinate, because you're the earthly empress. Now you can do something about it.
Right.
And I think that's the power of any archetype quiz or any personality profiling, is when we know and understand ourselves better. That's where the power comes. Knowledge is power.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And where do we get our knowledge from? We get them from books. So we need to write our books and pass around all of this knowledge that we all have in our heads. And with that note, Krystal, thank you so much for coming on and spending some time with me today and having a chat.
Oh, it's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Tea, water, whatever, coffee with Regina. I always tell people it doesn't matter what's in your cup. And thank you. And I will make sure that all of your links are out there for everybody so that everybody can connect with Krystal and at least do this author archetype quiz and move on from there, because it is absolutely fabulous and so interesting what it is that you do. You're not just a publisher. It's not just Hill House Publishing. It goes way beyond publishing. It goes into all of the inner pieces of being an author. So thank you so much for everything that you do. And
yeah, thank you for having me. It's been such a wonderful conversation. And thank you for what you're doing as well for everyone.
Oh, you are most welcome. And with that, we will see you all next time on Coffee with Regina. Bye for now.